Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. How are you all doing this morning? And we've got a triple Manchester United transfer swoop story to bring to you today. We'll also be talking about the Premier League and potentially 2 or 3 options breaking this, well, sort of in the last few hours really, about how Manchester United might get back playing, but also how everybody else might get playing. I really want to get your thoughts on that. Obviously, I think at the moment we're feeling a little bit like, you know, how long's a piece of string? Will we ever get football back? But we will. We'll see. We'll talk about that. But let's first off, I'll start off with a little bit of transfer news for you. It is Sunday morning for those people who don't realise what day we're at the moment with all this lockdown thing, and you do tend to get some various stories on a Sunday morning. Traditionally for years you've always got different stories, especially coming in from Europe, and we've got a few for you today. I'm going to start off with Federico Valverde, who plays for Real Madrid. He's 21 years of age, of Uruguayan descent, and he's a player that Manchester United fans, especially the United Stand community, this is one of the things I really like about our community, is you'll start to hear the name of a player a long time before anyone else is really talking about him. And a lot of you have mentioned Valverde in the past. As I said, 21 years of age. A lot of people would say that in relation to like a Paul Pogba, if you were going to do a deal with Real Madrid, do it for Pogba, for Valverde, because he can be a player that can become absolutely great. 21 years of age, like I said. £450 million release clause is what we're hearing, and this is coming from Spanish reports that Manchester United would be interested in him. I have never I've never really seen, I don't know about you lot, I've never really seen that Real Madrid are that team that wants to give away their assets to get what they want. I mean, there probably is some evidence of it somewhere, but they tend to be a side that doesn't want to give up their future stars for something else. If they want to say to us, look, we'll give you Valverde and we'll give for Pogba, then I think for United that's probably a decent deal. He looks like a very good player. I'm going to put my hands up and say I haven't seen loads of him. I've seen people say, look, you know, he's like the new Modric. Well, Modric is about 4 foot and Valverde 6 foot. So I think what you get, his main position is he can play off the right, he can play as an attacking midfielder, but he mainly plays as a midfielder. And we're going to be talking about Van De Beek in a minute, but he mainly plays in that midfield role. And, you know, not necessarily as an attacking midfielder. So I don't know. I think with United, they're clearly still being linked to a lot of people in case Pogba goes, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think that this is only a deal that could be done if Manchester United were looking to say, look, you can have Pogba, but we'll have him in return. And would Real Madrid do that? And if Real Madrid did do that, and welcome to Leicester Killer Foxy, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club, thanks for joining. I think if Real Madrid did give us Valverde, would they not be in a situation where they'd go, yeah, we'll do you Valverde for Pogba and a little bit of money, but we've got a first refusal buyback clause in 3 years' time. So look, he looks a very, very good player, but I think with these sort of players, my feeling with Manchester United is, and I think we've definitely seen this in the acquisition of younger players over the last few years. I think we want to create our own Federico Valverde. I think that's what we're trying to do. So whether it's going to be Hugo, I'm rubbish with the names, Mebri or Alua Traore, or trying to think of a few more like foreign players that we brought in at a very young age. I think this is what we want to do. And I think that Valverde is ridiculously unlikely unless it was part of a Pogba deal, but I don't think Madrid would do it. Welcome to Jason McAvoy as well, latest member of the United Stand Members Club, and he's never going to perform better, says Ollie Taylor. I don't know who you're talking about. Trij Vegland says, is Koulibaly going to go to United? We'll talk about Koulibaly next. I really want to get into the Premier League conversation as well. But Koulibaly is a player that has been linked to Manchester United consistently over the last couple of weeks. Now, I must admit, he's a player that I've sort of ignored. Not because I don't want Koulibaly. I really like Koulibaly. I did a rap about Koulibaly. Last summer, I wanted us to sign Koulibaly. This time last year, I know that United were looking at Koulibaly. But we ended up going for Harry Maguire. And I can't complain about Harry Maguire because I think he's done a very, very good job. But what I always did say is 80 million for Harry Maguire. If you'd have just added 10 on it, I think Napoli would have bitten at 90 million for Koulibaly, and Koulibaly's better than Harry Maguire. I don't see how Koulibaly comes to United now, but I have to say, because we're covering Manchester United news and that's what we do on the morning show, there is a lot of noise about Koulibaly and Manchester United around the Italian reports, and he plays in Italy. So You don't know what world we're going to live in when football comes back or the transfer window opens either. There's been no... Look, we'll talk about the Premier League in a minute, but there's been no change to the transfer window, which, as I understand it, opens on June the 1st. On June the 1st, Italian clubs have always been, in recent years, on the breadline a little bit anyway. They don't have loads of money. So Napoli, wanting 80 million for Koulibaly, could suddenly become as low as 30 or 40 million in a new transfer market. Whether United have got that, whether United are linked to him, I don't know. Are we going to see a revolution in relation to the transfer window? Will we see clubs with money taking advantage of clubs who are desperate, who need to strip their assets? We don't know if we're going to see a fire sale in football. And if we do see a fire sale, have we got the owners to go and get the bargains? Because I tell you what, Man City will still have the money and certain other clubs, but will Manchester United have the funds to go, he's really cheap, let's go and get him? And I don't know. Koulibaly, to me, 28, I think he's 29 in the summer. He can come into our team and do a decent job at Manchester United without a shadow of a doubt. Yes, he can. But I don't know why United are linked to a centre-back of that quality when we've just spent so much on Harry Maguire. You've got Lindelof, Bay, Twansebi. I'm not saying we don't need another centre-back, but would we go and sign a superstar centre-back to play next to our English superstar centre-back on transfer fee? It doesn't make much sense to me, but I don't know what the transfer window is going to be in 2 months' time. So there may be an opportunity where Napoli go, we need to... Look, there will be clubs out there, from Manchester United to Macclesfield Town, who are going to lose a lot of money. There are discussions within the Premier League and other leagues over the next week or so to defer wages, to stop paying wages, to try and keep clubs afloat. So there will be clubs when this comes back who are not in strong positions. Like, if you void the Serie A or whatever, you play games behind closed doors, the loss in revenue is huge. And there will be a lot of clubs around Europe going, we need to sell a player. And what you might see with the transfer market, instead of, oh yeah, we're Sporting Lisbon, we want 50 million for Bruno Fernandes, you might see a Sporting Lisbon going, we're in a lot of trouble, we need to sell 4 or 5 players quick. And if it's 10 million we get for those 5, we get 10 million for those 5. Weird times may be ahead for football. Hi Mark, I've been watching and super chatting for 2.5 years on my wife's profile. Steph Chadwick obviously has a lot more time to kill, so created my own. Cheers for all the content. United should get Rabiot thoughts, says Ollie Chadwick. I mean, Rabiot's an interesting one. Thanks for the super chat there, Ollie. We'll take some of your questions in a moment. Purple Patrick says it will be a seller's market. I think it'll be a buyer's market. I think if you've got some money, it'll be a buyer's market. And if you look at, I mean, you've still got to play by financial fair play. I think this is a bigger conversation, actually. Maybe we'll talk about it tonight at 8 o'clock. We've got Ricky and Saeed on again tonight at 8 o'clock, so I'm really excited about the Sunday Night Live show. 8 o'clock tonight, Ricky and Saeed. We'll have some fun with that. But I will write that down, buyer's market, for later. As regards to Rabiot, he's a player I quite liked to look at last year, but he's not really set the world on fire in a sense with Juventus. Somebody just said there that Lindelof's a waste of money. Not on my FIFA career mode, and that's live at 2 o'clock today. I tell you what, if you're missing live sport, watch my FIFA career mode. I know it's not live sport, but it is exciting. We're 2 o'clock at live on Mark Goldbridge. That's football today. We've just done our first leg against Lyon in the Europa League. I think we're around this time, actually. It's around the sort of middle of March, and we're in the race for top 4 as well. Very exciting. I can't wait for that. But into reality. There goes gravity. Let me talk to you about Donny Van De Beek then. He's another player that we've been linked to today and pretty consistently for about 6 months. It's Mark talking about Manchester United sort of making moves for Donny Van De Beek. And he's a player that's been linked to Real Madrid a lot as well. I think he's seen as the alternative to Paul Pogba. And it will definitely bring down the Neymar inflation, says Satark Doob. I think, look, this is not an exciting time for football. It's not. We've not got any football. We don't know when it's going to be back. I'll talk about that in a moment. But we also have a transfer window in the summer that a lot of fans engage in because it's exciting. Who are we going to buy? This transfer window is going to be very, very strange. Without a shadow, this is really going to be strange. And I think we could see something that we've never seen before, where if you have got 100 million quid, you could get yourself 7 or 8 quality players. And that sounds ridiculous, but you could, because clubs are going to be in trouble. And £10 million for Ajax is still £10 million for Sporting Lisbon, for Napoli. It's a lot of money. And you might have to be in a situation where you need £10 million. And you might value a Donny Van De Beek at 50 million, but you might have to take £10 million because you need that £10 million. It's going to be really interesting. If Grealish in and Pogba out, what's the midfield, says Kabil Balagopal. Well, what's the midfield at the moment? We don't even have Pogba in our best team at the moment. So adding Grealish to our team and just forgetting about Pogba makes us stronger in the midfield area. Donny Van De Beek, though, let me talk to you about him. He's still only 22. I think he's 23 next month. And we all know a lot about this player because we will have seen him in the Champions League, maybe some Holland games, and centre midfielder. Got creativity in him, got tenacity in him, good at rotating the ball. Could drop into the Premier League and be a very, very good player. Could drop into the Premier League and be, the next Geordie Classin or whatever his name is. Exactly. So we just don't know. I like Van Der Beek, but I've got to be honest. I've always said that in recent times, that if you're asking me if I want Grealish or Van Der Beek, I'll go Grealish because they're more or less the same age. A couple of years, I think Grealish is older. But what Grealish has done in the Premier League and the Championship over the last 2 years shows to me that he's proven within this league. He can do things within this league. And he's got a leader mentality, and I think Van Der Beek and Grealish would be around the same fee. So I personally would go Grealish over Van Der Beek. I don't know what you lot think about that. Sandro Tonali is also a one to look out for Manchester United, says Sartak Doob. Yeah, but the trouble with him, Sartak, is, and I've said this before, I don't see how Manchester United sign players from Italy easily. I mean, Darmian was probably the last Italian we bought. A lot of Italian players, Verratti's the exception, but a lot of Italian players stay in Italy. We were highly linked with Bernardeschi. He went to Juventus. We saw it with Barella. I think he went to Inter Milan. So you tend to see these players going to bigger Italian clubs. So I don't think that could happen as much as, again, he is a player that gets mentioned a lot. Josh Sutton, I also think it's entirely possible clubs may not make purchases as they once would with uncertainty around the future of football and the epidemic, says Josh Sutton. Look, it's interesting, isn't it? Because people at the moment get very sensitive about talking about football in relation to the epidemic that's going on. We are all in the hands of this wider picture at the moment. We've got the positive, I think, is that it's not an isolated problem in England, it's everywhere. All the big countries, all the countries with the resources, the scientific brains, etc. And I think that scenarios will get worked through over the coming weeks. You can be a doom merchant, you can be a positive person. Now, for me, people will say, in relation to football, you are a bit glass half empty at times, but in relation to bigger life, I'm not. I think that we will find a solution. I don't know what it is, but I think we'll find a solution over the next coming weeks and months. I don't think we'll see a dip again. I think this will be I think this isolation is going to be the big period. We may have to do things in the next year, but I don't think we'll ever see this again. And I do think that football is in the hands of that. And you're very right. If football comes back in the summer, but there's a big chance we might go into isolation again in the winter, I don't see many people spending money because they're going to be going, we're going to lose more money in the winter. If they come back at some point and they know they're coming back for good, I think clubs will think, well, no, we can get revenue back, we will spend money. But there has to be a redress of the value of the transfer market. We've said it before and I'll say it again. We are not signing Jadon Sancho for £100 million. So either Dortmund get real or Jadon Sancho stays. And we are not going to be able to sell Pogba for £150 million. If Pogba wants to go, we're going to have to let him go for a lot cheaper than that. So there will be players who have decisions to make. But you've still got laws in place that players cannot be held at places they don't want to be if their contracts are running out and things like that. So from a Paul Pogba point of view, Manchester United's position could weaken. The longer we're not playing, the quicker Paul Pogba's contract runs down. Do you think we should get Koulibaly or go for someone younger like Upamecano, or even just keep our current centre-back collection, says Dion P? Very, very good question, Dion. For me, I like... Imagine if that was Celine Dion. You're here. But for me, I would like to get Upamecano because I'm engaged... I'm not engaged, I'm married. I'm engaged in what Manchester United appear to be doing, which is what we've wanted them to do for a long time. Buy a player who's proven themselves in their career to a certain extent, but can make a step up. And Upamecano, Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, these are all players like that. So I would go Upamecano over Koulibaly. I know Koulibaly's 28 and 29 in the summer, but he does look like he's in his mid-30s. So that's not a reason not to go for him. I would love Koulibaly to come to Manchester United, but I think Upamecano probably fits more what we're trying to do. And I'll be honest with you, if we did spend money on Koulibaly and then I saw Arsenal get Upamecano, I'd be like, you know what? is Koulibaly a short-term fix when Upamecano's a more longer-term? I think Partey is more gettable than Ndidi, and McMayo should be trained as an understudy CDM. If we sell Pogba, we should get Verratti, says Ollie Chadwick. Yeah, I've got to be honest. We're living in a world at the moment that's very. Look, let me be blunt here. A very uncertain and a very scary world in relation to what's going on. Whether you're in Spain, Italy, Mexico, India, Australia, America, England, UK, Ireland, whatever. There are figures going up, and there are people that we're going to be worried about. So that's the world that we live in. Escapism to me is football. And when I think about football, I do, and honestly say this, I'm not going to lie, I honestly say that I do feel an element of excitement about football coming back, of course, but also the transfer market, because everybody's going to be in the same boat. This is not an English problem. This is not a European problem. It is a worldwide problem. If Manchester United and Liverpool and Arsenal are suffering massive loss of revenue, so are Real Madrid, and so are Barcelona, and so are PSG, and so are Juventus. So everybody's in the same boat. And when football comes back, we can talk about that now, but when football comes back, that will take care of itself. The transfer market, that's a separate conversation. And I just think, how do you solve this problem? And I think I don't think there'll be a collective sit down between every single club where they go, right, Dortmund, Sancho's not worth £100 million. Don't you even bloody dare ask for it. He's now worth 40. Right, United, Pogba, he's not worth 120 anymore. He's worth 60. Everybody's value is dropping by 50%. Now that's a common sense approach. You could even look at revolutionising the transfer window and having a draft system like they do in the NFL. We don't need to do that. What will happen with football is, as per usual, it will take care of itself. Clubs will deal as themselves, as their own identities. And what will happen is, Arsenal might ring up RB Leipzig and say, we want to sign up a Upamecano. Well, RB Leipzig are funded by Red Bull. I think they're a bit of a Man City of Germany. So they'll probably say, we want 30 million. And Arsenal might go, shit, we can't afford that. However, they may then pick up the phone and go to Lille and say, we want Babakary Samore. You were looking for 40 million in January. After this crisis, we'll give you 10. And Lille might go, you know what? We wanted 40 million in January. We've lost a load of money. That 10 million will keep us going for a year. We'll take it. And I think that's maybe, at the moment, and it's only my prediction, I think that's what we're going to see. I think there will be a lot of bargains out there where certain clubs have to take massively lowered fees because that's the world we're going to live in. So, more than ever, I think your scouting and recruitment is going to be massively important because, you know, Dortmund probably can afford to say to United, we're not going to sell you Sancho unless you give us 100 million. And United would be stupid to do that for many reasons. So you might have to go around. This could benefit clubs who've got good scouting systems, is what I'm saying, because there will be bargains to be had. I've seen mentions of Verratti, but we have Fred, says Josh Sutton. I think Verratti's a very hard deal to do. And let's not forget, Verratti's agent is Mino Raiola, which for me is a big turn-off. It's like seeing him in the shower. And any update on the Bellingham deal, says Jack Johnson. I mean, look, that's a deal I think we all want to do. Jude Bellingham, Birmingham City to Manchester United. There is no update on that at the moment. And the imposter says, let's just develop Garner and Chong, and you've got a very good team. And this is the thing. If there was a total collapse of the transfer market, or there was a avoiding of the transfer market till next summer or January, these things would benefit United because we've invested heavily in our youth system. So we have got players, and we've got a lot. I mean, they're not all going to be good enough, but we have invested in that. Right, let's talk about key comments coming through. By the way, hope you're all watching and enjoying. It's a Sunday morning sort of Man United news show. Remember, we do the news review every morning anyway at about 10 o'clock on the weekdays, but a little bit later today because the clocks have gone back. Tonight at 8 o'clock, we've got Ricky and Saeed on with me. Loved the show on Friday night. It was good banter, and it will be a good one tonight. Sort of a classic Sunday night show. Remember the old Sunday night shows with me, Martin, Kev, Alex, Rich, and all that. So a bit of. We might even get another guest on. We might go up to 4 guests. I think that might be quite good on a Sunday night show. Let me know. Do you want 2 or 3? Because I can add somebody else in. No problem. Also, 2 o'clock today, Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. If you're thirsty for a bit of competitive, unknown football, watch my FIFA career mode. You don't need to be a fan of FIFA. It's basically like watching football with me in the controls, which some would say is entertaining. Business end of the season there. Right, talking about football in the reality then. So there's been some rumours coming out around the Premier League meeting up next season. There's a couple of scenarios they're sort of talking about here. One, and I want your thoughts on it. One of them is the prospect of... There's talk that... I think there was some talk that Manchester United might start training in mid-April and the rest of the Premier League might start training in mid-April, and then there's the April 30th, there'll be no games before that. That's going to get pushed back. That was always going to get pushed back. That will get pushed back. It would be miraculous if we see Premier League football at the start of May. Not going to happen. The feeling is that football clubs will not be allowed to train before the middle of May at earliest. So that's one to sort of get your head around. Middle of May will be the first point before clubs can get back training. That would be nearly 2 months of footballers not being able to train together, which is the biggest break they'll have ever had in their career. Forget summer breaks, that's normally a month. It's a massive break. So they're going to need some fitness opportunities to get back playing. So the earliest I think they could be playing is by mid-June, maybe. Mid-June. There is talk that the Premier League wants all the games to be done by the start of July, which suddenly looks impossible, which prevents the season being finished. There is another option of playing all the games across 3 or 4 weeks in July and getting the season done. And this is probably going to be behind closed doors, although we don't know where we're going to be in July. So that's a scenario as well. And then the third option is just avoid the season and start it again in August, if possible. So there's 3 potential options there. The option, if they don't finish the season, they're even talking about there only being 2 more Premier League games. Arsenal, Man City, Sheffield United, Villa, because then everyone will have played the same amount of games. To me, that's ridiculous. It is, because all right, we're gonna avoid the season, but we want Sheffield United to play Villa and Man City to play Arsenal, so that everyone's played the same amount of games, and then where you finish, that's basically handing Liverpool the title. That's relegating Norwich, and if Sheffield United beat Villa, that knocks us down to 6th. I think that's stupid. The season's either finished or it's not finished for me. That's just what I think. You can't say to Villa, Sheffield United, Man City and Arsenal, you play your game so that everyone's played the same, and then where you finished, you finished. That's crap. That's a load of nonsense. So to me, there are still only 2 options. Finish the season, void the season. And I sit where I've always sat. I think, is football cancelled forever? No. We're going to have football again. So we just have football, we just finish the season when we have football back, whether that's June, July, May, August, September, October, November, whatever. We come back and we finish the season. I do not agree in any sense. And I'd love to get Rio Ferdinand on the show. He wouldn't do it, but I would love to get him on the show and say, why are you saying void the season if we can't get a definitive date to restart it in the next few weeks? I find that defies logic. Like, why? I've said this before and I say it so many times. Why do we need to be voiding the season in March? Like, we know we're not going to see any football till May or June or July, but why can't we finish the season then? Why do we need to void it now? Why are we so obsessed with starting next season in August when we might not be through all this anyway? We might have a double dip of isolation. So I just think it's sensationalist crap, really. And I think that I just hope that there's some common sense that we go through what we're going through at the moment, which is absolutely horrific, to be honest with you. It's a real global crisis. And then when things start to get better, we look at bringing the football back and finishing the season. That's just all what I think. UEFA says any European league must be finished by June, says Martin Thidden. Well, you know what UEFA can do? Shove it up their arse. Because I lived in a time when I was very young, and I grew up where there was no European football, because we got banned because of Liverpool, and there was no European football in the late 80s, and I loved football. So I don't care if there's no European football. I think the Premier League and the English game is more important to me than the Champions League or the Europa League. We must finish our league, because I think if we don't finish it, and this is only my opinion, and I respect everybody else's, of course, which is why it would be good to get some of these people like Rio Ferdinand to come on and tell us why they think we should void the season, because I don't understand it. And maybe some of you will call in tomorrow and explain it to me a little bit more. But I just think you lose integrity of the game. And look, at the moment, what's the importance of football? Not that important, apart from the escapism we're having away from the harsh realities. I get that. In the now, we need to focus on this. But I just think park the starting of the season until we come through this. Don't void it like a petulant, oh no, that's not, no, just leave it for a minute and come back to it when we're through all this. Because I think if we don't, the Premier League or the First Division has never been voided since World War II, right? And it wasn't voided then, we just didn't play it because there was a war. So why void? If you void it now, there will be more of these pandemics in our life, because The world's getting smaller. We're digging deeper. We're interacting more with these things that can give us these diseases. There will be more. There will be more. So if you'd spoke to a Liverpool fan at the start of February when this was all kicking off in China and said to them, in 2 months' time, your Premier League title that you've got one hand on will be ripped away from you because we will be in lockdown, they would have gone, you're having a laugh. But what about United in 5 years' time if we're in March and we're going to win a title and then this happens? Oh, it's voided, sorry. It's happened before in 2020, it's voided, sorry. You know, that uncertainty is always going to be there, which is why I think when we get through this, it's very important that we come back and finish the league for the integrity of what we do. Otherwise, every single season for the next however many years, you'll always think in the back of your head, they might just strip this away, they might find a way. But, you know, if we see. If Liverpool were crowned a champion during pandemic, who would stop their fans to go out and celebrate? It's not safe, they would prefer to avoid it, says Arco Mania. And Mark, if we don't void the season, how do we do the Euros in 2021, says the imposter. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about the Euros. I'm not bothered about the Champions League. I'm not bothered about the Europa League. I want to see our Premier League season finished because I think it's important that we finish something that we've started. I don't want to see... Oh, look, we're talking about football here. And I know some people will get upset and say, oh, I can't believe you're talking about this when people are dying. Of course. You may as well say, let's not do any shows then. Let's not watch films. Let's not watch Netflix. Can't believe you're watching Netflix when people are dying. I can't believe you're eating food when people are dying. You've got to try and find things to be escaping into. And that's what we're doing right now. But look, there's talk about I read something today about the Champions League and the Europa League. They'll just do a one-game system from this situation. There'll be no two legs. And what they'll do is they've considered flying all the teams left in the tournaments to somewhere like Switzerland or somewhere where there's not a low level of the virus and just having a week-long tournament where if you get knocked out, you're out. So we could see something like that for the Champions League or the Europa League this year. There are things that can be done, but I wouldn't... The thing I'm against is, one, voiding it too soon, and I think there's a lot of pressure from people to void it, and I think it's wrong. Avoid voiding, in my sense, at the moment. We might have to void it in May, but I wouldn't void it now. And two... I don't want to see a situation where we go, let's just say the season finishes as it is and give Liverpool the title and relegate Norwich. That's stupid as well. You've got to finish it. That's what I think. And Justin Mahangi, he says, let's wait and see in June if we can finish. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think we'll just wait for a little bit. Wait for a bit of it. D-Train says, in the current world climate, do you think Manchester United could ever go broke? We already owe hundreds of millions. Look, that's a cracking question, and it's not one we've really touched on. We are in massive debt at Manchester United, but I wouldn't have thought we'd go broke because the revenue streams are so big. But the problem is the projections of revenue streams for the next 5 years of United are going to be redressed massively, because the problem you've got is if United's debt's 500 million, that's always 500 million. If United's revenue predictions over the next 3 years is, say, 100 million a year profit, that's going to change. It could be because of the financial crash, because of the lack of sponsors, the lack of money coming in, that your revenue profits drop from 100 projected to 25, but your 500 million pound debt stays the same. The trouble with debt is that's not affected by the drop in money in a positive way. You've still got that debt. But your profit levels, they can be massively affected by what's going on. So it could be an issue for United in relation to transfers, in relation to signing players. It could be a massive problem. And this is why, and I don't know why people aren't talking about it, this is why the Glazers, the debt is a massive problem. Because if you're carrying debt and then there's a crisis, that debt's still there, and you're going to get into more debt because of the crisis. So this is why carrying that debt, and people say, oh, it's fine, most big... No, it's not a good thing. And this is where the Glazonomics, as they call it, could be a bad problem for Manchester United. But we'll have to wait and see. We are positioned well to come out of it because we're a very, very, very profitable club. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I guess we're just going to have to do without, says Clayton Cruz. We might. Manchester United might not buy anyone. Do you think Pogba and Bruno will bring out the best of each other? Says Score 70. We'll have to find out. I mean, look, if United don't sign any more players because of what's going on, are we in a bad position? You know, you look at our best 11, and I think we'd all agree, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Bailly or Lindelof with Maguire. Shaw, left back at the moment, maybe Williams if he keeps getting better. Midfield 3, you're probably going to have either Fred or Matic at McTominay holding with Bruno and Pogba. You'd have Martial up front, Rashford off the left, and then on the right, that's always the problem position. Maybe Greenwood could take it, maybe Dan James can take it, but you know, that's the right wing. Sancho, that's the player we need. I think everywhere else, we're a good team. The right wing is the position that we have a problem with. So we're not I don't think we'd win the league next year if we had to keep the same team and didn't sign players, but I'd certainly think we could fight for top 4. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the transfer window, won't we? Please do smash a like on the video if you're watching live. It'd be nice to get 1,000 likes. We're on 500 at the moment. If everyone hit the like button now, we would do it. Let's have a look at some of your questions. Do you think Angel Gomez will sign the contract? Says Haydar Official 786. Well, this is where clubs might be able to do some decent business. I mean, there's 2 theories on Angel Gomez. 1, because of all the uncertainty, he'll sign the contract. 2, because of all the uncertainty, he'll suddenly become a very attractive signing to a lot of clubs who don't want to spend transfer fees, because Angel Gomez is out of contract. So all you've got to do is pay his wages. So he could be... There might be a lot of clubs queuing up for Angel Gomez now who weren't, because they were thinking, well, we'll spend a bit of money on somebody who's proven. Whereas Gomez, now, you haven't got to buy anything up other than his wages. So he might end up with more offers, which makes it more difficult for United. Or, in the uncertain times, people might retract and say we're not spending any money, in which case he'll accept the United contract. So I still think it's up in the air with Gomez. Rodri Hughes says, should pre-contract signings like Ziyech for Chelsea play for them after June the 1st, when the window opens and the league is still playing? I think what will happen with that, Rodri, and it's a very good point, I think all contracts that we're going to end at the end of this season will be knocked back to the end of the season if we're going to finish it. If the season gets voided, then of course it won't make any difference. Raymond Francis says the domestic leagues are the highest priority for completion. Europa League and Champions League are byproducts of the leagues going on and completing both this season and the upcoming seasons. And without a quality CDM, we're going nowhere, Mark, says Chicharito Hernandez. I do feel that we do need a quality CDM, by the way. And who would you keep between Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Bruno or Martial to score 70? I'll keep all 3 because you didn't tell me to get rid of one. And JT Music says he thinks Gomez will stay because he loves Manchester United. I hope so. And why are people obsessed about a CDM, says Pratik Sharma? Because I think I wouldn't say I'm obsessed, but I think if I was signing one player, it would be that. And if you look, I know it's FIFA, but if you look at my FIFA career mode, you are playing as those players. And yeah, Rashford, if you get him in a bit of space, and Bruno around the edge of the box, they're going to score goals. But having Ndidi sitting in the midfield and playing the 4-1-2-3, or whatever you want to call it, that one holding midfielder like Ndidi, with the speed and tenacity he's got, allows me a platform to attack more. When I play Matic, he's too slow for that position. When I play Fred, he's not really a CDM. So a CDM, whether it's FIFA or real life, I think a proper CDM would be good. And it can't be Kante anymore, and I don't think we'd go for Kante. I mean, Kante's 29 today. Happy birthday, Kante. But there are other players there that you can go and get. CDM is the first player we need to sign. Only Matic can do this job in the current squad, says Van de Candy. I think, yeah, Matic is the only specialist CDM we've got. Van de Candy is right. And he's also coming towards the end of his career. He hasn't got the legs to do it on his own anymore. I don't think Fred's a CDM, and I don't think McTominay's a CDM. I think McTominay can become a CDM, but I would like to see a specialist one. But I don't think that's what United are looking at, if I'm honest. I really don't. Ndidi or Partey, pick one, says Score 7. I always pick Ndidi. I've picked this before. If you watch all the shows, you'll know I've always picked Ndidi. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Please smash a like on the video. We're 8 o'clock live tonight with Ricky and Saeed. That will be lots of fun. We're taking a lot of your questions tonight as well. And if you didn't see Goldbridge Reacts to Goldbridge Rants, which is on this channel, we put it up last night. It's basically me reacting to Pink Boots, Pineapple Man, Rashford's for penalty, and I think it was the Longstaff goal against Newcastle. So basically the clips in the corner, I give you my reaction to it, which people seem to enjoy. You can watch that. That's up on the channel. And 8 o'clock tonight, of course, and 2 o'clock this afternoon, Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, FIFA Career Mode live. We're getting to the business end of the season. Second leg against Lyon coming up, and some key Premier League games. So if you want a bit of action where you don't know the results, which isn't a rerun of classic games, and you want a bit of live football action, join me at 2 o'clock on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. 8 o'clock here for Ricky and Saeed. I'll speak to you all soon. Have a good day. Keep smiling. Smash a like on the video, and I'll speak to you soon.